This happened to my sister. Her husband and her had just had their first child, a few months prior. My brother-in-law was working the graveyard shift at his job as my sister stayed home, taking care of my nephew. At around 2 a.m., she heard loud knocking on her back door. She went to go check it out, and saw a lady banging on the door asking for my sister to let her in. The lady told my sister that her husband had just beaten her and was looking for her. My sister was hesitant to let her in, since she had a newborn in the house and didn't want to interfere. She told the lady that the best she could do was call the police for her. The lady told my sister to not call the police and to let her in. This is where my sister got suspicious. She went to get her phone and called police. When she went back to the door, the lady was gone. The police arrived a few minutes later, and they told my sister that the same situation happened a few streets down. Apparently, the couple would do this act to get into people's homes. I'm sure this is very common, but having it almost happen to my sister and my nephew just creeps me out. Dating with a serial killer. About 5 years ago, my mom started dating a guy she met on a dating site. That part is fine. A long time ago I started dating the woman who would later become my wife, and we had met online. Anyway, my wife and I never really liked this guy. We didn't think he was mean or anything like that, just a little creepy. He was quiet, he kept his eyes closed a lot, and occasionally said odd things like offering my wife a chocolate and then popping one in his mouth, closing his eyes, and moaning as he let it melt in his mouth. One time my wife and I were visiting my mom, but she got called into work, so we waited at her house. Her boyfriend was over, but he spent the entire several hours just hanging out in her bedroom with the door closed. Just before Christmas, my mom and this guy started having some difficulties. My wife and I were visiting her for the holidays, and she dropped all of her problems on us, and we listened carefully and told her our opinions and suggested that she would be better off without him. She already had her mind made up, though, and decided to break up with him on Christmas Eve. We spent the night at my mom's and got up early on Christmas morning to visit my dad at his house. We didn't plan to spend the night at my dad's, but we got snowed in, which was actually a nice Christmas surprise. The next day we left as soon as we could to get through the snow. My wife suggested that we stop by my mom's house on the way, so that we could see if she was okay. My wife just had a really bad feeling about my mom's boyfriend. My mom's car was in the driveway, but that doesn't mean much because she lives close enough to work. She often walks and it hadn't snowed in her town. She also never locks her door, which drives me crazy, so we let ourselves in. That's when we see blood oozing out of the refrigerator. It was leaking onto the floor and had made a puddle. My wife screamed and I freaked out. I fully expected to see my mom's head in the freezer. I nervously opened the freezer to find a bag of frozen cherries that had been opened and melted. There you are. I went camping by myself into the deep forest. One night I woke up at 3 a.m. Not being able to fall asleep, I just laid there listening to the woods. Then I heard, "There you are." I was petrified. I felt so vulnerable in the tent. I came out of my tent, very slowly. Turned on my flashlight. But I wasn't able to see anything. I think that I am not going camping for a very long time. Always look under the bed. My great aunt lived in the village, by an old southern prison. This was before most people had TV, so she had been listening to the radio and found out that a violent rapist had escaped from the prison nearby. She walked into her bedroom. She had one of those old saggy mattresses and felt something under the bed. She thought something didn't feel right and slowly got off the bed and then immediately called the police. When they arrived, they found the rapist under her bed holding a knife from her kitchen. He told them he had been waiting for her to go to sleep so he could rape her and then stab her to death. Intruder. I converted an old Android phone into an IP security cam that starts recording and send me an email on motion. Set it up before going out of town. One night I got a motion detected email at 3 a.m. In the morning, I went through the video, recording somehow got jammed and it shows a single frame of a weird silhouette standing in front of the door. With the door open, I left it closed, and it was closed when I got back home. 3 knocks in the dead of night. Something strange happened to me and my grandma. One night, we stayed up late watching the TV. It was about 4 a.m. when we turned off the television and the lights and called it a night. My grandma went into her room, and I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth. That was when I heard 3 light knocks right behind me. Since the bathroom was connected to my grandmother's room, I assumed it was her checking to see if I was in the bathroom. I answered but didn't get a response. When I left the bathroom and met my grandma in the hallway, she asked what I wanted. Confused, I said that I thought she was the one knocking on the bathroom door. But Grandma had also heard 3 knocks on her door and thought it was me. As it turns out, we both heard the quiet, distinct knocks. We searched the house to make sure no one had broken in, double-checked the locks, and finally went to bed. My grandma has 1 deceased son and 1 son that has been missing for almost a year now. I believe that the knocks had something to do with the missing men. Perhaps they were trying to reach out to their beloved family. Scares at the nursing home. I was working in a nursing home for people with Alzheimer's, and I had some serious scary encounters while working there. It was pretty normal to hear someone talking to me even though I knew no one was nearby. One night I went to collect food carts in one of the units, alone. The whole time I was in the unit, I felt like I was being followed. Fearing what I might see, I never turned around. Eventually, I pulled off, pretending to use the bathroom. I waited there for about 5 minutes before peering into the hallway. There, I saw a patient I recognized. At first, this made me feel better, but soon, I realized that it was a patient who had died 3 days prior in a unit near the kitchen.